a lot of times people don't in this space don't like to share their products. They're afraid people are going to copy them, or afraid like, oh, if I share this cool thing I found, I'm going to have 100 different copiers on it. And that does happen. Bradley's had that with the coffin shelf, here at Helium 10. I don't know, once he used that in the case study there when they did that whole YouTube series. And now there's, I don't know how many coffin shelves that are
a lot.
A lot. Yeah. So it does happen, but I'm going to show you some ways to make that almost impossible today. Not to say that someone can't mimic you, because sometimes when people copy you, that's a nice way of flattery. But there's a lot of things that you can do to differentiate your product, and it's becoming super important. The days of when I first started, I know you've been doing this for a while, 2015, 2016, you just go to Alibaba, you'd find a product, look at Helium 10, see where the gaps are, and just stick a different name on there, and maybe create a logo, put it on there, and put that up and sell it. Those days are long gone. Can that still happen? Occasionally someone can have success doing that, but it's extremely, extremely difficult. And true branding and true product differentiation is where it's at. And some people think, well, I'll just add a warranty, or I'll add an ebook to my product, or I'll bundle it with something else, and that'll make it different enough. And that's usually not enough. And in today's world, you got to change your approach. And that's what I'm going to show you today with real world examples of my actual products. Some of these I'm not selling anymore for different reasons. Pricing got priced out of the market with raw supplies or something like that. But I'm going to show you exactly what I do and to try to give you some insights and some perspective on how you can approach this differently for what you're doing.
Very nice. I'm excited.
When it comes to business, there's really only two things that matter. And when you cut it to the core, that's innovation and marketing. There's all the details of finance and money and all this kind of stuff. But really, if you look at any business, look at Apple, you look at Microsoft, you look at Tesla, you look at any of these, it's innovation and marketing. Those are the two fundamental things that you should be focusing on first. So I'm going to start off with innovation. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is innovation. This is a product you see on screen called Basecamp. This is an Apple Watch charging dock. It also charges your iPhone, charges your iPad. It has a nightlight on it. This is a really, really cool product that came out in 2015. It was launched in 2015, so almost 9 years ago, right when the first Apple Watch came out. And how this originated, this is a product that I sold, and I actually created this product from scratch. This was my actual product, and I created it from scratch right when the first Apple Watch came out. And what happened is I went on Amazon to try to find some ideas for products, and I saw that Apple Watch charging docks were trending at the time. And most all of them were like these cheap bamboo kind of wooden docks for 15 to 20 bucks, all coming off of Alibaba with just different names on them. Each one looked exactly the same, just had a different name. And I was like, if I'm going to spend 500 bucks for a watch or whatever the watch cost back then, I don't want some cheap stand to put it on. I want something that looks cool. So I developed this that I would want. And I was like, I don't want something where there's cables hanging across my desk, cables hanging across my nightstand. So I want to hide all the cables. I want to be able to charge like 3 things at once. And so that's what I developed. And so this particular product, you can see here, has a little nightlight on it. I later added a Bluetooth speaker to it in a version 2. It put the watch up on top. The phone would sit on the side, and it had the charging was buried inside. All the cables, the back actually had 2 additional USB ports so that you could actually charge an iPad or put something else on the back of it. It had the cables were all hidden underneath, so you'd wrap the cable around underneath, so it's not like just all messing up your desktop or your nightstand or whatever. The night light there, you can see it. You can hit that button a few times and like adjust it up in different levels. I created a really nice box for it, and I had all the different adapters because I was prepared to sell this in the U.S. market, and so I created one charging dock, and then had them make the different adapters that go in the end, depending on if it's for the UK or for Europe or for the US or for Australia, the bigger markets. I later added a Bluetooth speaker to it. I changed that nightlight to not just a nightlight, but actually a Bluetooth speaker so that you could, this is, the days before there was Beats or any of that kind of stuff. So it actually was a cool thing to be able to have your phone sitting there charging and have a little speaker that would play your sound music or your wake up call or whatever. You can see there the little night lights turned on. As an example, these are actually some of my listing photos that you're seeing on this. You can see that it would fit all kinds of different watch bands. I created a really nice box for the outside of it to differentiate it, so that when you got it, it felt like you're paying $80 for this thing. This was a little video that I had made. I found the way I got this made is I came up with the idea. I found a factory on globalsources.com. So I didn't even use Alibaba. I used a company called globalsources.com, which is another alternate sourcing place. It's not as big as Alibaba, but you can find some better factories sometimes on there. So if you haven't checked that out, check it out. And I found a factory in Shenzhen, China, that would do this. And I ended up paying them $1,000 for the design. And so they had their internal guys do all the design. And then the molding and everything, it was expensive. It cost me about 30 grand to do all the molding because it's electrical parts and USB and there's a chip in there. So this is not for everybody. But I spent about 30 grand on that. We've created all kinds of prototypes. And they would send me these files, these 3D rendered files, and these like SFP files, I think they're called. And then I took that actual file. So before this was ever manufactured, didn't even exist. There wasn't even a prototype yet. I sent it to a guy in Eastern Europe, and he made this rendering from me from those files. And this is a video. He made this entire video. The product did not exist. So I could see it exactly as it was going to be. And he made this 360-degree, basically, before there was AI video of the actual product. You can see this one only has one charging dock on USB on the back. I added a second one, but I did this, and then I sent this out and did some testing. Like, what do you guys think of this? And I was able to get the people at one of these big Apple Insider blog posts. Like, when this comes out, let us know. We'll publicize it. So right there, I was like, they thought it was cool. So I had my launch ready to go. Like I said, this didn't come from Alibaba. This didn't come from the EWU market or the Canton Fair. The idea for this came from my head. And so I created this from scratch from my head. I've done that for a dog bowl and for some other products as well. And so I also, at the same time, back in 2015, I launched 5 different brands at once. Some of them were the traditional, find something on Alibaba, change it up a little bit, change the packaging, put your logo on it, and then send it out. But this one I actually designed from scratch. I think that's where you need to start thinking more and more about, is designing things from scratch. And it's not always about a better mousetrap. It's about what the people want. And so with today's technology and with the AI, you can do so much that I couldn't do 9 years ago when this was launched, that you can do now with iterations and these renderings, that you could have 20 different types of this and do all kinds of testing on PickFu and you can do so much more now with this. So this was the renderings that they would send me. So I would open this up, these EASM files, and I could play around with it on my computer and spin it and everything. And say, oh, let's modify this, or let's change this, or I don't like where this is positioned, put the logo over here. So this is before we even made a prototype. And then what I did is I did 3D printing. So there's a guy in Austin where I live that had like 30 different 3D printers in his garage, literally. And so he had all kinds of different sizes and machines. So I just took this file over to him, and he made this. This is a 3D printed sample. And then I took this to the Apple store in Austin, and I said, can you open up the drawer of all the watches? I want to make sure every watch, every band fits on here and doesn't touch the light, and I want to make sure the cable fits through the channel in the back and everything. So I had a total like piece of crap basically, but 3D printed. But it's actually at least something that's I can hold and touch and feel, kind of get an idea of how it's going to be. And then we made modifications. So after I tested it with this, then I went through and I made modifications. Oh, we need to make the cable doesn't quite fit. It's not quite snug enough, or it's crimping in the corner. So we went back and we made some modifications to it. And then this was a prototype. So then they do what's a machine prototype. There's a specific name for it, but it's a machine they make like 20 of them before they make the mass run. And then I could actually test it. And so I took it, and that's what we created. This is one of the product photos for the actual that I used on Amazon that I had taken. This is one in my guest room. And so we just put it on a nightstand and just showed it. They're actually charging 3 different devices and how it works. And it worked like magic. And then for the listing also, I actually showed, I create cartoons. I found someone on Upwork.com that would do this for $50. And I had them actually said, I want a before and after. I could shoot this with photography, and it would be expensive. So I just had them make a cartoon and say, look, show the before, because every product, you need to be trying to solve pain points. I mean, there's 3 or 4 different things you want to focus on when you're developing a product. One of those is solving someone's pain point. So you want to show them what it's like before your product and what it's like after your product. So that's what I did here. Instead of using photos, I used these cartoons. So I show on the left how you got all these cables everywhere and stuff all over the place, taking up your whole desk, your whole nightstand, just a mess. You're having trouble sleeping over there, the person. There's all kinds of little hints all throughout this thing. You got a light that's flashing on it instead of a night light that's all bright, keeping you up. And then you got the one on the right that's like you having a peaceful sleep. Everything's organized. Everything's nice. And so these are things that you want to think about when you're actually creating your images, is show the before and the after. You can do it in photos. You can do it or you can do it in cartoons. And like this one, and it worked really, really well. You're going to see another example of this in a minute. So this is the way you can do an example of how you can do innovation. This product in 2015, Christmas of 2015, I was selling about $30,000, $40,000 a day of it at $89. And then what happened is the reason I did a second version. I did a version 2 with feedback and put the Bluetooth speaker in, did some other changes. And then in March or April of the next year, this is before there was Getida, before there was or Helium 10 that had the refund ability. And someone posted on a Facebook group, on the FBA High Rollers Facebook group on Helium 10, saying, "Oh, did you know that Amazon will refund you for damages and lost items?" And so I was like, "Oh, that's cool. They lost some of these things when I shipped them in." So I filed a claim, and when I filed that claim for like 10 missing units, Amazon suspended the listing and said, "Oh, we're going to do what's called a bin check." And they went and they actually said, "We got to stop all sales and we got to do a total inventory across all of our warehouses." And I was like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. I don't care about the 10 units. Just forget it. Forget the claim. You're crushing me on my momentum. Well, I was down about 10 days while they did this quote unquote bin check. Worst decision I ever made. And that basically killed the momentum of the product. But I was able to bring it back up, but never back to that level because there's all kinds of other competition coming in. And I sold this on, I forget the name of the website now. It's kind of like a Sharper Image website for dudes. I sold this into Best Buy. I sold it a lot of places. But then the market started changing, but I was able to ride this for a couple of years, and it was good. So that's a way that you can think about doing innovation. That's an example of one that I did. Now let's talk about something on the marketing side. On the marketing side, you can differentiate with your packaging. A lot of people do that. You could have just the generic bottle that you see on the right, or a really nice bottle on the left, and put your differentiating bullet points in your image, how they're showing one's made from bamboo and no plastic, it'll biodegrade super fast. The other one's going to take hundreds of years, and so on. These are great ways you can do it in your image stack to actually show the difference. Because remember, on Amazon, people buy photos, they don't buy products. My buddy Perry Belcher is actually the one that actually said that, but they can't touch the product, they can't hold it in their hands, so they're buying based on the photos. So you got to remember that. So many people skimp on their photos, or they don't spend enough time creating the right photos to create the right emotions. People buy on emotion and they buy on photos, and so by differentiating like this, you can do a lot of cool stuff in your infographics in your stack. Look at another one. I mean, this is someone selling a commodity. Liquid Death is water. It's just water. But look what they did with the branding and the way they actually packaged it. They put it into a can instead of a bottle. They had the Liquid Death name, all the graphics. It's just, most of the cans are actually oversized. Liquid Death's a great case study if you want to go and look at how someone actually has developed a brand on something that everybody else is selling and actually stand out. Now it's over $1 billion company, and that they're crushing it. It's a really, really good case study. At some point, I'll go into deep detail on this, but I want to show you one of my products where I did this. I had a brand that was originally called Tail Waggles, and I made a mistake on this brand. I filed for trademarks to get brand registry and all that kind of stuff. And about 3 months into the trademark process, I get a note from the trademark office saying, "Oh, sorry, your name Tail Waggles is too close to something else." This is 3 months after filing, and I'd already done the homework, but they found something in the system, so I had to change it to Wag House. So I was already in production on some dog bowls, and I actually had to call the factory, say, throw away all those old molds and those imprints. We got to change the logo, and I had to change the whole name mid production. It cost me a lot of money to Wag House. But one of the products that I sold under this is the Wag House logo here. It were bully sticks. If you're not familiar with what bully sticks are, they're still popular today. It's a dog treat. It's made out of the penis of a cow. So they use every part of the cow to maximize the value when they butcher it for meat. And they take the penis and they actually make bully sticks for dogs. It's a very popular dog treat. So there's 6-inch versions, there's 12-inch versions. Those are the two typical sizes. And in 2016, 2017, I was doing some research of what's selling on Amazon. I saw that these things are just crushing it. I already had a dog bowl out, so I was looking for another type of product to accentuate my slow feed dog bowl. And bully sticks came up. And back then, Helium-10 didn't have what was just getting going. So they didn't have Magnet and they didn't have Cerebro and all that stuff. So I had to use this old program called Amazing Product Validator. And so I punched in bully sticks and look there. I was like, boom, big green result thing saying that's a really good keyword. Excellent BSR. Look at that search, 359,000 search volume. I was like, all right, I'm going to do bully sticks. So I started researching bully sticks and I looked at these. This is another tool back then what was popular called Merchant Words. These are results from Merchant Words. They showed these search volumes actually are probably not right, but it's the best we had back then. We didn't have much more accurate stuff like Helium-10. So it showed 7 million. I was like, all right, and all the different keywords are based off of that, free range, and those are beef bully sticks and bully sticks for dogs, and all had some decent search volume. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to go into bully sticks as my next product on this brand. So I pulled up and did a search, and I see that there's all these different brands that are selling bully sticks, and a lot of them are selling for around $20 to $30, and it's pretty much a package, like a plastic bag full of 20, 30 bully sticks, all for around $30. So somewhere around $1.50 a stick is basically the cost to the consumer for these. And I was like, okay, that looks good. So I started calling some factories, and I was like, I need to differentiate. I don't want to be just another guy selling 30 bully sticks for $30. And what can you do? What can you make special? And I started reading all the reviews on all the products, and the reviews were coming back with like, oh, these bully sticks stink, because you can just imagine it's the part of the cow that, that area stinks sometimes. And so my house has an odor to it after my dog chews it, or some liquid drips out onto my couch when my dog jumps up on the couch. It's just, and then people were worried about, where are these bully sticks from? Is it U.S. cows, or is it some, there's a big scare of like Chinese beef back there. Are they Chinese cows? Are they from Brazil? Where are they from? And so I was like, I need to differentiate this product. And I don't want to just put it in a plastic bag either. I want to put it in something really cool. And so the way I differentiated the product is I found this through tracking down. I wanted to make sure it was U.S. made, U.S. beef, not imported. And I wanted to set it apart. And so I found this guy who was a classically trained French chef, like worked in Michelin star restaurants. And he was up in the New England area. And I got in touch with him and said, you make bully sticks? He's like, oh yeah, I don't do them on machines. I hand carve them. We smoke them in a certain way. We have a 15-step organic process that we do. I'm like, this sounds perfect. This is like, I can differentiate this from all these little cheap bully sticks. I said, well, they cost. He said, oh, you're not going to like this part. They're very expensive. So I ended up having to sell 3 bully sticks, 3 12-inch ones, for $54.95. So $55 for 3 bully sticks. Now remember, everybody else on Amazon is selling 30 for $30 roughly. So I'm like way crazy overpriced. I was like, I don't know if this is going to work. Everybody always says on Amazon it's all about the price, all about the value, and I'm like, I don't know if this is going to work. But I'm like, you know what? I think there's people on Amazon that don't care about the price. If you know the avatar of your customer, you know that there's a lot of pet owners that a pet is just a farm animal. They keep the dog out in the backyard and it's just a farm animal. But for other people, a pet is part of their family. It's their best friend. It's their compadre. I just saw a story. My dad just forwarded me one a couple of days ago about how people take care of their pet's health better than they take care of their own health. And it's true. And I was like, I can market to that. There's people that have dogs that are willing to spend really good money for their dogs to give them the best. So this is classically trained French chef. That's a good story. It's organic. I'm solving all the problems of the juice, because the way he cooks these and he does the smoking and stuff, they don't have all that extra liquid in them. They don't stink. They're organic. It's from the U.S. I can solve all the review pain points. And this is before all the AI tools existed to analyze reviews. I was having to read reviews. So I was looking at how can I package these different. And so these were some of the packaging ideas I came with. But what I ended up doing is putting them in a cigar box. So I had a custom cigar box. I found a company in Brooklyn, New York that's close to this guy, so I didn't have to pay shipping across the U.S. or across the world. They'd make these boxes for me. I'd put a sticker on the outside with like a cool textured label on the outside of it. And then we put them in the cigar boxes. So this is the 6-inch version. So there's 5 6-inches, and those sold for $44.95, I think it was. And the 12-inch version was only 3 sticks and sold for $54.95. But I packaged it so when you got it, you felt confirmed. You're like, if you just spent $44 for 5 of these bully sticks, you're like, did I just get ripped off? But when it comes in the Amazon box and you open it up, you're like, oh, this is a cool box, got a cool texture to it. It's all about the sensation. When you feel the box, there's like a little edge on it, like a texture. The label had like a texture on it. So like, oh, this is kind of nice. So it helps justify in the mind that I'm getting value here. These are premium. I created the listing. This is actually the bullet points and the title for the listing. All the keywords are in there. And what I focused on is I couldn't compete on the word bully sticks, because the word bully sticks, as you saw earlier, was super popular, and almost everybody on that page is cheap. And so I could do a launch. Back then, you could do all these coupons and all these giveaways and rank to the top within a day or two. It was crazy stuff you could do back in the day. And I would get there, but then as soon as I stopped doing these promotions, I would fall off to page 2, page 3. But on long tail keywords like bully sticks made in USA, or bully sticks no odor, or premium bully sticks, those I could stay on page 1 for. And there was enough keyword depth on all those where I could stay ranked for those, and it worked. Because there's enough niche, enough variation in the keywords where it actually worked. And so then I created pictures. I went to a dog place, a dog kennel, where my dog would stay sometimes. Like, hey, can you get permission from some of the owners? I want to come in here and do a photo shoot with dogs. So we did a little cute little dog with a chef hat on. Did another dog holding it. So actual real pictures, not my iPhone, because a lot of other bully stick people were taking their iPhone, just taking a picture of a dog sitting on the ground or something. Just horrible pictures. So I created all these kind of cute pictures. Remember, selling is about emotion. And so this creates emotion of, oh, look how cute he is. And then I did a whole series of image stacks to show the difference. Because if you see something on Amazon for $50, you're like, and it's 3 sticks, and you're like, this guy's out of his freaking mind. $50, $55 for 3 sticks. I can just go buy 30 for 30. So I had to show the difference. Remember what I said, people buy photos on Amazon, they don't buy products. And so I showed them in the box to show that these are big. These aren't little skinny little things. They're like big honking sticks. I listed all the reasons people wouldn't buy, all the objections basically, and all the things that were important on all my research. These are kosher. You don't think about that for a dog. But some people, that's important to them. So everything that's important, I put on here. These are kosher sticks. I showed the comparison. Like, look, ours are full. The other guys, they stretch theirs. That's how they can sell 30 for $30, because they're stretched and they're hollow. I showed, like, look, ours are wide. The other guys are skinny. I showed, look, ours has no odor. It's glossy and smooth, but the other ones stink. I showed, look, ours are with a knife, and there's something sitting on the table there. They're hand cut. The other ones are on some nasty ass machine that's never cleaned. So I showed all the reasons why you don't want these cheap ones and why you want mine. And then I showed a comparison of ours versus others. I kept driving it home. Like, if you're going through this image stack, you're like, all right, I get it. I showed them on a scale, like, look, this is what they weigh. Don't just trust me. Yeah, you could Photoshop this, but don't. I showed them, it validates it. So I showed everything to try to take all the objections to why you should spend this kind of money. Then I did my cartoons again. So I would show at the top, here's some dogs driving through like a fast food place, and they're just getting some cheap, Happy Meal type of cheap hamburgers or something. And then I show in the bottom, if you want Wag House sticks, you could like go into a nice steakhouse where there's a maitre d' with a bow tie serving these on a platter, and just connotates that image and creates that emotion, creates that feel, and helps justify why you should give these a try. And then I did another cartoon. I tested different cartoons. So I had another one go from fast food to Wag House Premium, similar concept. Now instead of in a car, they're inside the restaurant, and you look on the sign there. If you look there's all kinds of details. If people blow this up, I know you can't see it very good here on the screen, but on Amazon, if they blow it up, they would see, all these kind of like making fun of the other sticks, all in the menu and stuff. It works. And then I created, back then it was called EBC, but now it's called A+ content. So I created A+ content, and I used pretty people. You want to use pretty people. You want to use faces whenever you can. Even though you have the dog, use people smiling and faces. There's science that shows that's a 35% lift in conversion rate when you use faces. A lot of people don't use faces in their photos. They just show the hands or they show the dog, but you need to have people and showing that they're having fun, their dog's happy. You're creating that emotion. I went out, this is before it was popular to find influencers. The whole influencer UGC game was just getting going at this time. But this guy, I found him on, I think it's called Fame Kit. It was, I forget the name of the website now. I don't even know if it still exists, but it's where you could go and you could hire people to create UGC. I'm just going to play you a little bit of this video. I did not script this. I sent this to the guy. I sent in my bullet points to say, hey, this is kind of what I'm looking for. Can you do something? But I'm just going to play the first part of this because it's pretty cool what he did. And you're going to see where he actually sniffs these things. He actually pulls them up to his nose. Yeah, they're right there. He actually pulls them up to his nose and does a demonstration of showing, look, there's really no smell. And I mean, it just creates that trust and that, yes, it's true. And then he's got playing with his dogs, and he just did a really, really good job. Then I take a look at my reviews. Now, these are some of the real reviews that were coming on the products. You know, I was getting some 5s and 4s, highly recommended. I would get the occasional 1-star review. Someone like, this is the biggest ripoff ever. 3 sticks for $50. You got to be freaking kidding me. But look, I got constant reviews. I had a 4.6, I think, average overall. And it just worked really, really well. And I had one guy, Subscribe and Save had just begun back then. So I was on Subscribe and Save. One guy, I think he did 86 or 87 times on Subscribe and Save, just kept buying them over and over. Like every time that he would get renewed, he'd buy them. And he'd buy them in between too, because he needed more. This worked. This is how you differentiate a product and how you approach a market where it's saturated differently. And don't always think it's always about the price. As long as there's long tail keywords, you can do some amazing stuff. Here's just a few more of the lifestyle pictures. The one on the right there is my actual dog, Zoe, when she was much younger. Then what happened is the guys that owned Best Bully Sticks, which is the biggest brand on Amazon, they saw what I was doing and they're like, how's this guy in Texas selling $50 for 3 sticks? We need to reach out to him. So they reached out to me and they said, hey, why don't we partner up? Why don't you actually sell some of our stuff? You can basically private label some of our other treats. We've got duck feet and we've got pig's ears and we've got all these antlers and all this other kind of stuff. Why don't we partner up and you just use your brand and private label from us. We manufacture here in the States. We'll ship it to you. So I tried it and it didn't work. I need to package it differently. So instead of putting it in a plastic bag, I had these custom bags made. And when we tried this, it just didn't work. But my other Bully Sticks, because of differentiation, the way I marketed it, the opportunities there, and appealing to the rabid pet owner wanting to take care of their best friend, their member of their family, it worked. This is an example on pets. Now, if you want to get some ideas, if you're trying to ideate this, Kevin, this sounds good, but how do I do this? This is a really good link here that you can go to actually get an idea on how to position. This is a marketing positioning. I'm positioning the product against everybody else. And this 5-step process it's free at aprildunford.com. That link there, take a screenshot of this, or maybe someone can post it in the chat. And this is a good 5-step process to help you brainstorm through and to know how can you truly differentiate your product. So I recommend you at least take a gander at that, or have someone on your team take a gander at that. So when you're trying to come up with your next product or differentiate what you've currently got, maybe something's kind of on the down and outs right now, but if you just re-engineer that product and come up from a different positioning point of view, you can do really, really well. So that's a resource for you there that should be really good. Now let's take a look at another thing on differentiation. How do you turn a commodity into a brand? A commodity, you got Temu coming in that's selling all these cheap things on Amazon. You got Amazon now going to start allowing factories to ship directly from China under this Amazon, whatever it's called, Amazon Direct. There's a name for it, but where they're going to basically have their own version of Temu on Amazon. That is going to kill some people. You're going to see some people go out of business on Amazon because of this, because they're not differentiating. They're just another Me Too product. And there's no differentiation other than maybe the price. And it's who can sell the cheapest price is going to win. And if you're competing on price, you're playing a losing game. You're going to lose against these Chinese factories that are going direct, because they're going to sell it on Amazon for less than you're buying it from them for. Let me repeat that. When Amazon launches this section, which is basically a Temu type of section, your factory will sell it for less on Amazon, direct to the consumer, for less than what the price they're willing to give you to buy it from them. That's going to happen. So if you don't differentiate your products, or you're not thinking in terms of some of these examples I've given you, you're going to be, you may be in some high water and maybe going out of business. Or if you're just starting, you may not have a chance to actually succeed. You've got to approach this game differently now. It's more complicated. It's harder. It's a real business. It takes thought. It takes effort. In some cases, it takes money. But this is how you can do it with a commodity product. This is a periodic table. It's a really good thing. Take a screenshot of this. That when you're creating a brand, it's a periodic table of branding. You always remember, most of us from school, you had to learn the periodic table of elements. This is a periodic table of branding. And this is some of the things that all go into creating a brand. A brand is not just a logo. A lot of people think, oh, I've got my brand on Amazon. You don't have a brand, dude. You have no brand. This is no brand. This is a logo and a name. A logo and a name does not make a brand. A brand connotates a feeling. It connotates a message. It connotates an identity, an affinity for people. There's a lot more to it. And these are some of the things. Does the type of type style you use matter? Yes, that's part of it. Does the logo matter? Yes, that's part of it. But every brand has a voice. Every brand, the name is important. Yes, but that's not a brand. You've got to go way, way beyond that. And this shows you some of the elements in a really nice, concise way that you need to focus on when you're truly building your brand. And I'm going to show you an example of this right now on how to do this with a commodity product with one of mine. We all remember the pandemic of 2020, and hand sanitizer was going nuts on Amazon. It was booming worldwide. Everybody's freaking out, needing to buy hand sanitizer. Around April of 2020, this was the SQP report, the Search Query Performance Report on Amazon. It had just come out as a brand new kind of thing on Amazon. And hand sanitizer was number 6. And some partners of mine and one of my other Amazon companies saw this, and they're like, we should do hand sanitizer. And I'm like, no, dude, everybody and their brother is going to be doing hand sanitizer. This is going to be like hoverboards, it's going to be like fidget spinners. Everybody's going to be doing it. And they're like, no, we can do it. We got this company in India that can make this stuff for us. And I started doing homework on it. I'm like, well, okay, maybe there's something to it, but let me look into it. So I looked into it and I used some other tools. This is not Helium 10, it's a different tool. It's a private mastermind tool that showed me last week's sales volume. And on the hand sanitizer, this was in April, it showed 129,000 units on Amazon on the word hand sanitizer alone, just that single keyword. And then other ones. I was like, all right. And then there's all these, the Polaris, this big market research company, came out and said, this hand sanitizer thing, even if the COVID goes away, people are going to change their habits. And yeah, you're going to have a huge bump because everybody's now using hand sanitizer, but a lot of places are going to install hand sanitizer machines. It's going to become more pervasive in society. And I was like, yeah, okay. So if this has a big boom up, it's going to go down when COVID goes away, but it's going to probably be higher than what it was before COVID started, just because people have changed their habits or they're more aware of it. That's basically what this Polaris study said. So I'm like, all right, this looks cool. Then there's this story came out of this kid that was in the middle of the United States. I think he's in Tennessee or Kentucky or somewhere, and he was going to all the dollar stores and buying out their hand sanitizer and then just arbitraging it on Amazon for like crazy amounts. He ended up getting sued by the state for price gouging and stuff. But I'm like, all right, he's just crushing it. And so all this stuff coming out. And then I look on Amazon, and this is what was selling, because hand sanitizers, all the Purell and Germ-X, the two big brands in the US, were hard to get. And then what Amazon did is they created something called the COVID store. And they gated, basically, Purell. They said all the first responders, all the hospitals need to have access to this, not you people at home. We need to save this for the people that really need it, that are dying in the hospitals. So in order to buy the big hand sanitizers, you had to go into the COVID store and get authorized. And so it took a lot of the competition away on Amazon. I saw that, and I started seeing all these like weird hand sanitizers that people are making, almost like felt like in their backyard, coming up on Amazon. Some of it was long shipping times. It's coming from China, and you'd order it and it'd take a month to get to you. And it's just garbage. And you look at the reviews on them were just bad. And they're selling for like crazy amounts. It's $11.59 for these little bottles. And so I was like, all right, guys, let's do this. We're not going to use this company in India. We're going to get proper FDA approval. There were some rules where you could, at the time, where you could actually make this without going through all the steps of FDA if you did certain things. We figured out all that, figured out all the legal side. We came up with a brand name of Germ Shark. We came up with and this logo. So this is where the name Germshark, and we started this company. It was me and 4 other guys. I was handling the Amazon side of things and all the branding and all the marketing. And there's another guy's handling all the sourcing and dealing with the factories and all that. And then the other 3 guys were the money guys. And these guys put in about $1.5 million by the end before it was all said and done of their own money. Luckily, crypto was doing really well at the time. One of these guys was just making bank selling NFTs and on crypto. So he had a lot of extra cash just sitting around doing nothing. So he threw a bunch of that in, and we started this brand Germshark. And I was like, okay, if we're going to sell hand sanitizer in this super competitive commodity, I mean, hand sanitizer is like 1 to 3 ingredients. It's nothing. Anybody can do it. How do you differentiate a product that everything is basically the same? Yeah, you can put a smell in there, or you can do a few things, but it's basically the same thing. How do you differentiate it? So we came up with some bottles. We said we're going to do a 3-pack of these small bottles, and I tested it on PickFu. And so I took R3, the ones it says winner there with the green box around it. Those were R3, and I tested it against these no-name brands, like these Chinese no-name brands, and we won, hands down, won. Everybody said we would buy this one. This one looks legit. The others are sketchy. And then I tested it against the top brands like Purell, which is a #1 brand in the U.S., and I got my butt kicked. Purell beat me because that's a bigger brand. People trust it more. So I was like, okay, as long as Purell is not on the main Amazon site and they're locked away in this COVID store where nobody can get in there, I can crush it. I can be #1 on Amazon until Purell comes back. And when Purell comes back onto the normal Amazon website, I'll be okay if in spot #2 or spot #3 because I've positioned myself, I've gotten my rankings, I've gotten my reviews. There's still enough depth and market share that even if I'm spot 2 or 3 or 4, I'll still make some good money. So we're like, all right, let's go forward with this. So then we created a whole line of products. We ended up we saw that there's wipes were having trouble. We had the big bottles to refill, like the canisters at like the restaurants and malls and airports and stuff. We created little toys. We actually created with our brand, we created like a little stuffed toy. You see the little stuffed shark there. We created little holders, that little kind of turquoise looking thing in the middle is a holder for that clip onto your purse or onto your backpack or something for the small bottles. And then, here's a better picture of it. These little guys here. We created this kind of stuff. Why did we create this? Not to sell it, but for branding and for promotional purposes. So what we did with it is we went out and we did a campaign to hospitals. And so we reached out to hospitals and we said, hey, we'd love to send you a free gift. Thanks for your service. Thanks for everything you're doing. We'd love to send you a free gift. So we made this little brochure here, thanking them for everything. And then we sent a package of like 25 in a nice, we had a nice like 4-color box made, like a gift box. We put some of that little like shredded paper in there that makes it all look kind of fancy, put them all in there. And then we included there's some kids and stuff in the hospital. So here's some stuffed toys, along the branding. And then what did they do? These are the actual ones getting it. You can see the box there. And they started posting it all over social media. And we started actually getting sales, and this legitified us. It showed like, look, this is legitimate. Doctors are using this and they're showing this stuff off. We created our A+ content page and actually did some really good stuff with the A+, and we showed how for every bottle, every package you buy, we donate a bottle. So we had a cause with it too, is we donated a bottle to charities. We created memes and graphics for social media that would actually show, play off of different things during that time. We ran huge campaigns on this. We did actual physical postcards in the mail. A lot of people think, the mail is dead. Nobody checks the mail. BS. We did these physical postcards through the mail and sent them to hospitals, sent them to people that previously bought sanitizers. We got some lists. We got editorial recommendations because of our branding. People love the branding and the mission that we're given a bottle for every 3 sold. And then we did stuff like jingles. We actually created a jingle for the brand because remember I said selling is emotional. And this is a really good study here. You should take a look at this sometimes, but sound is the most important thing to our brain, not visuals. So you can be watching a YouTube video, and if the YouTube video is grainy or jumping around a little bit, then you might accept it. But as long as the sound quality is good, if the sound quality is good, you can deal with lesser quality video. But if the sound quality is bad, you're going to skip this. You're going to move on to something else. And it's an area of your brain called Broca's area. And it's an interesting science. If you take a look at this from a branding point of view, if you can reach Broca's area, you can do things, really amazing things. Think of old jingles like the Oscar Mayer Wiener jingle, if you're old enough to remember that, or some of the old jingles that you see on TV now, the State Farm jingles, or some of the other ones that are out there. That's all branding and marketing, and it's creating these visual images. There's a lot more to this. We could go and do a whole presentation just on this, but so we dialed in on Broca's area and to use influence. And so what we did is we created a jingle, and then we created a video. I had one of the Amazon companies that does these nice videos. I had a couple of them actually do it. I actually had a contest with PickFood to be on one. I had 4 different companies doing and competing, and we created these jingles. And just, this is not the best singing, so don't worry about the singing, but the music and the song, it will stick in your head.
Hello, my friend, I want you to be safe. Keep your hands clean and if you're be, I'm here to help you. Keep the germs away. Open the bottle, I've had the germ charge. Rub it. Germ shark protection. Clean your hand keeps the germs away. Predator strength, the best protection. No matter where you are, it can't be too far.
Anyway, this was a really cool jingle that had all this lyrics to it, and people. I sent this to Bradley here at Helium 10, and he watched it, and he was like, "Damn, dude, I can't get that out of my head now." I was like, "That's the point." So the next time that you're wanting to get hand sanitizer, that comes to your mind. And it worked really, really well. So we had a couple of them. We also went out, man on the street. We had these costumes, and we would go down to a park and walk around, give them out, and we'd go mess with people. And we create all this stuff. We went to a grocery store and grabbed grocery carts and had like 10 of these sharks walking into this grocery store and freaking people out. And we did all this kind of marketing to help differentiate. And it didn't sell a lot locally, but it helped us create the content that we could put out there worldwide. And it really worked really well. These were our sales on 7/7, $40,000 on one single SKU on that day. And you can see we just started crushing it, and we started standing out. And this is how you take a commodity and you truly make it into a real brand. These were some sales. We started selling in July of 2020. We went live. So this is basically the first month sales. Was $1 million on a brand new product. And so this stuff works, but you got to come at it from a different point of view. So what I'm trying to do today is just show you a different way of thinking of this. Can you do everything I did? Maybe, maybe not. But you can start thinking in this direction and start moving in that direction. And that's what we have for you today. Thanks everybody for joining us.